Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and you're watching the recommission of Speedy the Standard 10 on iDriver Classic. Today, we're going underneath and seeing just how bad it really is. Right, friends at home, it's time to investigate the good, the bad, and the crusty, and the dripping with oil. I know that needs sorting. We're going to talk about that later. So first of all, before we catch up with Ed, who will be doing the bodywork on this car and is a restoration expert at ADO Restoration, where I work, I thought we'd have a look together ourselves, because the whole process of this, I wanted to show you and be completely transparent about everything that's going on, and really give you a good perspective on what you get, or what I got, for £850. Now, I know that you're going to look at some of these bits and say, Steph, that's a wee bit crusty. But look, let's contextualise this car in the great scheme of things. This car is 70 years old. And by the way, I want to know, do any of you know how this works? Apparently that circular thing is something to do with the original jack. Anyway, going back to this car being 70 years old, let's take you back to 1954. The Queen has only been on the throne for a few years. Rationing only ends a few months before this car is sold. And if you're wondering what they took of rationing last of all, it was, I think, some meats and bacon. And Winston Churchill is Prime Minister. It's a whole world away from today. 70 years is an awful long time. And it's an awful long time for this car as well. So I feel like I'm very sympathetic towards the years that she's been out on the roads, the winters that she's faced, and the life that she's lived. Because as Roger said in that recent pre-war car video, every car has been a banger at some point. And that is such an important point to remember when you look at cars like this and you consider the things they need. And I think, all things considering, I don't think it looks that bad under here. There are, of course, a few bits and pieces that need addressing. There are some pipes and some bits and pieces that definitely need changing, including a broken spring that we're going to show you later. But overall, for 70 years, I think she's wearing her age very well. I mean, goodness me, do you know any 70-year-old humans that look absolutely perfect? Of course you don't. So did I expect this car to be perfect? No way. Now let's get Ed's opinion and take on this, because his opinion on what needs doing is incredibly important in this process. Here he is, our man of the hour, Ed. He's been called in now that we've propped Speedy up into the air, just to see how bad things really are, or maybe how good they are. So come on, Ed, walk us through front to back and talk about what we're going to have to do. And remember, if you missed the first video, this car is 70 years old next month, and it cost £850. So quite frankly, when it went up in the air, I expected to just see a load of old Frosty's boxes and under seal, and we haven't seen that, so I'm quite pleasantly surprised. But there are a few things that I maybe wasn't expecting. So come with us. Fred's going to follow with the camera, and then Ed's going to talk us through what's going on. Ed, start us off.
Well, immediately there's quite a lot of oil around the underside of the engine here, which we think is from the end of that crankshaft seal.
Yeah.
Because it just looks very wet here, and obviously it makes sense that that has sort of flung it and sprayed it all around sort of this area here. So that's not something extremely serious. That's something that we can just get a new seal and swap that over.
Okay.
So that's the first thing that we've seen. Some new brake. There is some definitely new brake bits on the car already, as we've we've sort of seen those. These hoses look very recent, in good condition. So we're not bothered about things like that. There's a few pipes that have a few twists in or are looking a little bit corroded. So we'll just go through all that and check all of that. The only other things really, body-wise, is the back end here.
Can I have a look? Right, moment of truth.
So there's some pretty crispy bits here that look like they might have been patched from the inside. And it's the same on both sides for this. So we'll just cut this out and we'll make a new piece and we'll weld it in.
And so for anybody watching from home, how long do you think that will take you? How much time would you estimate?
Day or so maybe, depends.
Okay.
Depends what else we find if we're digging. But it's had older repairs in the past, which, you know, we've given them a good poke with a finger, and they seem pretty pretty structurally sound. So we're not going to dig too deep into what's already been done.
No.
Because, you know, it looks strong enough, but, you know, if it needs doing, we'll have to do it. But at the moment, it's looking like just these two rear ends of the floor pan, and the rest of it, it looks pretty good.
Before we flip over to the other side, do you want to talk about this?
Oh yeah, that was interesting. So we're not entirely sure what this exhaust system is from. There's an interesting sort of bodge there with some zip ties, along with a rubber strap on a rubber block. And then there's another mounting point here, which is obviously from whatever exhaust that's from. So we're thinking we're going to have to look into that and perhaps see if we can source an exhaust from somewhere.
It's a rust just dropped in my eye, lovely.
Another little welded up bracket.
Should we talk about this side?
Yeah, that's the same as the other side. Similar sort of work needed for that bit. There is a broken leaf spring here. So we're going to need a new rear spring, so we may as well replace them as a pair.
Now, where are we going to go for those if we can't get them?
We've successfully had Rossendale Road Springs make us springs before. That's one of the companies that I will try and see if they've got some drawings on. If they've got drawings on their books, we can get them to make those up very easily. If the club spares don't have them available, that is. But yeah, there's a few manufacturers of leaf springs that we can give a call and see who will try. Again, just some more leaking brake pipes and things there that I'm afraid we've got a frayed handbrake cable there, so we'll look and see if we can get a new one of those. But overall, pretty good.
Is it better or worse than you imagine? So it's worth saying that we did walk into this with a good bit of insight, actually, didn't we? Because Joe sent us pictures of that.
Yeah, we saw those.
That other side.
We saw those little holes. I had in my head that they were the front floor pans, which I think I said in the last video, but actually it's the rear floor pans. I didn't quite see that from his pictures, but
we knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming.
And I think as well, just to be really transparent, Steve did say somebody had had a look at the car ages ago and said it needed some welding. So again, it's just that honesty. We've walked into it, eyes open, knew that was coming. So there's a few extra bits, but I mean, it's a 70-year-old car. If you go into classic car ownership and expect everything to be perfect, in my opinion, sorry if this is going to upset anyone, but you're being really silly, because if you want the brand new car experience, just go and waste your money on a finance car. Because if you buy into a classic, you will be forever doing little bits and pieces, and that is part of the joy, because it's the whole experience.
Yeah, 100%.
If you just want a really sterile driving experience, don't get into classics. It's not as fun. So I'm not stressed out about this.
No.
It's not as bad. I once bought a car, and it was around about this price point, actually, and there was an awful lot of fiberglass and a lot of rot, a lot of rot, and it was so much worse than this, and that was over 10 years ago, and I think that was also newer than this. So I think, well, you know what, I see worse cars than this from the 1980s. We do at work, don't we?
Oh yeah, we do. And I mean, I would say, if you're looking at buying a classic car, that definitely bodywork. I mean, not a lot of people can do that at home in their garages, can they? You know, we're lucky because we've got a workshop at our disposal. But you know, things like the brake pipes and the leaf springs, you can do those in your garage at home, on your driveway at home. But welding is a little bit trickier. Not everyone has got the equipment to do it, the space to do it, or even the skills to do it. So if you are looking at classic car ownership and you're thinking of getting one for the first time, I would start by looking at the bodywork on one. Like we knew about these, we knew what was coming. We've got the facilities to do it, so we're not fazed by it. But if somebody out there is thinking, I might go out and try and find myself a standard, I'd check the body as a first instance, because like I say, all the sort of
Yeah.
mechanical parts you can do yourself
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
And there's so much support from the club. And if you are going to buy one, as I said in the last video, go to the Standard Motor Club. I wouldn't have bought one off eBay or Facebook Marketplace or anything. For me, it was only going through the club because I thought there's a level of trust there that the club aren't going to stitch you up if you're a member.
Yeah.
They're going to look after you and they're going to make sure that they put you into the right pair of hands.
Yeah.
And I think that's the really great thing about clubs. There's so much accountability there that they aren't going to want people to feel disillusioned with the experience.
No.
And I still feel really excited about this.
Yeah,
So we've looked on top, looked
it's
underneath,
great. Yeah,
and we're still excited.
Yeah, we still think it's an excellent buy. And yeah, a couple of days on those back corners. Day or so going through the brakes and changing a few pipes and things, and then swap the rear leaf springs, and I think we'll be ready to go.
Because
And the head gasket.
And the thing is, I am going to put an MOT on this. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, it's MOT exempt, mate. Yeah, but the thing is I do think MOTs are really important because they are a touch point in the year for somebody else just to second glance at your work.
Yeah.
You are a professional and you MOT your cars.
I MOT all my classics, yeah.
Yeah, so does Paul. And I think that's a really important point is we all MOT our classics and we are people that work in a professional setting in classic automotive.
Yeah.
And if we're doing it, it seems bonkers there are people out there that aren't. I know I go on and on and on about this, but it is a privilege to be able to drive. It's a privilege to own and look after a classic. And why wouldn't you do it? I know some people out there say, well, I'm an ex-mechanic and all the rest of it, but there are things that we have seen on the ramp today that Joe couldn't see on the floor in the garage.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so
Lying
important.
down on a piece of cardboard,
Yeah.
trying to give us the best impression. And you're right. You know.
And that's why it's so important to get a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
We're not all, we're not all perfect. We're not robots, and even robots fail. So it's, why wouldn't you go and do it? It's so cheap. What is it?
Yeah.
40 quid, 50 quid?
40, 50 quid, and it's that piece of reassurance that something like you say, a second set of eyes, and if anything happened, out on the road, what would an insurance company say if you had been involved in an accident and you didn't have an MOT on your car for the last 10 years?
This hasn't had an MOT since 2011, but it's not really been used. And I walked into that knowing that, and that's okay. But I think there are these pitfalls now where you don't have an MOT. There'll be cars now cars of this age that haven't been MOT'd since the 50s MOT exemption came in. So that was 2010, 2011. It was ages ago. So if you are buying something like this and it hasn't had an MOT in that long, for goodness sake, check it twice over because you don't have that paper trail to show you what's gone on. And sometimes I do look at the MOT history for cars if I'm looking at them, and it gives you a bit of a benchmark of what's been going on.
Yeah, that is a really good way to sort of get an idea of if your car has been looked after. If you're looking at an MOT history and the same advisory is cropping up every year, you think, well, are they bothered? Are they taking care of it? Are they servicing it regularly? And that is free. You can look that up online on the Gov website, and it will give you a comprehensive list of all the MOT fails and everything. And you're right, that is a good way to, as a first instance, to look into buying a car. But if your car hasn't had one for 10 years, then that to me is alarm bells.
Did you feel alarm bells when you found out this Sunday?
No, but like I say, we knew, didn't we?
Picture, cool.
We knew because, Joe had a good look at it, and it's what we expected, really.
I'm still so chuffed to bits with it. It's great. I'm so proud to own this, as I said in the last video, and I'm even prouder. We've come underneath. It feels very blank canvas still. It doesn't feel like loads of people have been in here bodging stuff. You're an excellent welder, so I think, well, the work that you're going to add to this will add value in terms of, not monetary, I don't care about that, I'm not a money orientated girl, more adds value to the car in terms of keeping it going for longer, and it adds strength, adds integrity back into the car, and that's what I hope to do with the MOT as well. I just want to keep building on the car now and making it a stronger, better unit. And if something happens to me and I have to get rid of this, I want to know that the next person that takes it on has a really good starting point.
Yeah.
So I've had a really good starting point in that I've had it so cheap and it's still so good, and I want to just keep improving that for the next person, because that's what we should all do as custodians.
Yeah.
Now I think I've gone on long enough. I think we've had a good look underneath here. How sure are you think we'll get it done for the NEC? It's middle of October.
Middle of October, and we're what, about 5 weeks away? 4 weeks?
Three.
Three?
About 3. 3 or 4?
Yeah, we better cracking then, don't we?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Right, well, we'd best put Ed's welding mask on and we'll see you later. So until next time, take care and drive safely.